MVP. This is some shit to talk about. I ain't gonna lie, cause what's your whole idea behind MVP? When you think of MVP, how do you feel about MVP? What you look for out of your MVP?
Okay, so I'm gonna start with what I learned what MVP was growing up. Because at first the awards is whatever they give to you. Like for instance, NFL. I know we don't talk about a lot of football, but NFL, the MVP was primarily a QB award.
Yeah,
and we just okay with it because it just seemed to be that way. It was like they should have did like a different name for it, but because you can't get more yards than the QB, just ended up becoming the QB award. So as far as the NBA, it started out for us in our lifetime. It was always first, second seed.
Mm-hmm.
And, after that, it depended on your stats. So when people say, like, Kobe got robbed for MVP, back then there was no 8 seed MVP. The lowest MVP was a 3rd seed. And that was, like, I think that was Jordan's Defensive Player of the Year or a year where he had 30 something. He went crazy that year. But 3rd seed. But recently, after seeing, like, Jokic got it as a 6th seed, I know Russ did something that never been done before as a 5th seed, got a triple-double, averaged a triple-double. And then Steph was about to win it if there was no Embiid or Jokic, but he was in the play-in, didn't even make the playoffs. He was about, even though I think the awards are voted for before the play-in, they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
But for me now, at a point where we're at, as far as like the narrative and just knowing that like standings don't matter as much anymore, like first, second seed isn't the guarantees to win the championship as it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, thanks.
I think that it should just be the best hooper, like just line them up, best hooper that can make the playoffs though. I feel like you can't be like outside of the 8 seed. We gotta have some sort of standard for that.
I agree.
But as far as the most valuable, like I gotta at least turn on the TV and be like, I got to see the MVP play in the playoffs. That's how I feel.
Right.
So maybe do the voting after the play-in. Maybe make it first to 6th seed.
That's how I feel.
But I think first to 6th seed is fire.
Out the play-in.
Yeah, out the play-in, first to 6th seed. I'll take that. But after that, I'll say just best player. I think that goes to stats. That goes into what they do for the team. But this year, it's the same as how I've been wanting to do it for a couple years. I don't want to like jump the gun, but that's basically my MVP. Right. Best player, clutch, winning games, playing games. I don't think it should be 65 games, but you should be there a majority of the season.
Thanks.
Impact. You can see that by watching the game, and I think you should let these voters be people who actually play the game and not people who don't watch it but get to talk on it because they got a degree.
Or at least watch the game.
Yeah, just watch the game.
Oh my God, bro. At least watch them, bro.
We caught you up. You was talking about somebody who played for the Knicks, man.
We caught you. I was just about to say that, man. 4-5 caught you, bro.
We caught you
4K, bro. Or whatever else they got.
Ultra play for the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Watch the game. That's been the theme for like the last 3 episodes, bro. Watch basketball. Like I don't understand, bro.
Watch the game.
Stephen A. Watch basketball.
But who's the MVP to you?
MVP to me is like the best. I always thought it was like if you take him off the team, what would that team do without him?
Yeah.
Like literally the most valuable player. But like you said, it was like never really that because that's why I've been a Brown fan since Yay High. So I always had the argument like Brown should really win this, John. And when he was in his prime and he actually really could have won it, like the Derrick Rose MVP, I get it. It was Derrick Rose. He did his thing. Nobody did that. I also thought that LeBron should win the MVP. That's just me. Because I felt as though if you took Bron off the team, his team was going to drop off the face of the earth. Like it didn't matter, even with Miami and the Big Three or whatever. I still felt like if you took him off that team was going to be very bad without him. And I always thought it was something like that. And there were certain years where I felt like if you took like Giannis MVP, you took Giannis off that team's not doing nothing. You take Embiid off the Sixers, you see what just happened. So it's just like I always thought it was something like that. Like out of the 1 through 6, out of all those teams that are contending for the actual playoffs, which player is the most important to their team out of all those players? That's kind of how I looked at it, and that's kind of how I always felt about the MVP. But as recent years have gone, like ever since Westbrook pretty much won that MVP, and then Jokic started winning his MVPs, it's like really like the best hooper. And I'm not a fan of the Jokic MVPs. He reminds me of like Tim Duncan. I never liked Tim Duncan's game. I respect Tim Duncan for being a champion. I respect Tim Duncan for winning.
He's
boring.
His MVPs are very like Steve Nash-esque. I'm not saying like the direct numbers, but as far as like the numbers jumping out at you or the aggregate jumping out at you. Gil was talking about on his podcast, like the Russ, his anomaly though was he got the triple double. Like no one's ever done that.
He averaged it.
It was. I remember being younger and seeing like, Magic Johnson's, LeBron saying, "Oh, that's never going to happen again,"
Right.
and he did it, and also did it with more double doubles. He had like 42 instead of however many Oscar did, and it was like last game of the season he had a clutch shot, and that was also the same season he clinched the triple double average, or same game he clinched the triple double average.
Yeah, I remember
Actually went against Jokic. That game was against the Nuggets. Funny story, but he gave the Space Jam powers over to Jokic. But I think Jokic is a great player. I'm just saying, like, as far as like the stats or like the like accolades or what he did that season, not jumping out at you. I'm not gonna like look back and be like, oh yeah, I remember that season. That was his 26, 10, and 8 year. Like I'm not gonna be thinking, but he did hoop though. So
and it's like I really think it's like it comes down to being the best player that season. Like who really gonna be the best player that season? Like for me, it was always 50-50. Like most important player to your team, and just straight up who the best hooper this season. That time, and the whole team aspect coming. And because they was only boxing in between first, second seed, like that was really all they was allowing. Like people saying, as we were growing up, first, second seed, that's the only way you win in that award.
There would be other MVP candidates outside of
for
them,
sure, but people would tell me as a young, because you talking to older people growing up, people like, oh yeah, they wouldn't give it to him because he's losing or such and such he's losing, or
fourth seed was considered losing.
Fourth seed would be considered losing. Like oh yeah, he doesn't win enough. Like they'll say stuff like that. Oh, he's not the best because you got so and so on this team and so and so on that team. Like he's the leader of that team, bro. If this was mid 2000s, Jason Tatum would have a legit shot at being MVP, but he does not.
No, he would have had a few by now.
Right.
He has the best record in the league, 62 wins, 15 games above the Bucks.
Like,
giving you like what 27.
Yeah.
I can't tell you off the top of my head, but like what 27, 5-5 at the very least. And then
I think 28, 29. He's not
probably, but I just know he's not at 30.
Not 30, yeah.
But and then even the year he had 30 and they were like second seed, I definitely see him winning it. But like you said,
that's stuff that Bron won MVPs off of.
that year Jokic, Embiid, and Steph was top 3. It was Jokic was like 6th seed, Embiid was the 4th seed, and Steph was 8th seed playing and got knocked out, lost to the Lakers, lost to the Grizzlies. But those was your 3 candidates. Before it was number 1 is the 1st seed, number 2 is the 2nd or 1st seed on the conference.
Rose was maybe number 1 in the conference that year.
Yeah, he was number 1 that year.
Number 1 in the conference that year.
Because that was a year after the Heat. I think when they finals, so like LeBron was more lax. He wasn't on some like.
We need that number 1 spot right there.
Yeah, it might have been. I think it was 2011 actually.
It was 2011. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was that first year.
It was that first year. Yeah.
But regardless, though, he knew where he was going, so it wasn't no.
That's what he was worried about. So you mean. Yeah, so it was even stuff like that. So.